And good morning, friends. Welcome to The Bright Side. I am Pharmacist Ben. Our number today, 844-236-6010. Got lines open for you. We'll get your calls in our next segment. If you have questions, comments, success stories you'd like to share, or if you just want to contribute to the conversation, 844-236-6010 is our number. We'll be talking to Linda Carimo at the bottom of the hour. She's the author of a book called I Know My Way Memoir. It's available on Amazon. Linda is a glaucoma expert. She suffered from glaucoma since she was born. She was born with partial vision, and she's dedicated her life to helping people understand this really, really serious eye disease that affects millions. 3 million Americans are living with glaucoma, most of whom are over the age of 40, but not all. Sometimes young folks get glaucoma. Infants can get glaucoma, and the elderly get glaucoma, and everybody in between. We'll talk to Linda Glaucoma about the sneak thief, as it's been called, the eye disease that's the sneak thief of your precious vision. We'll talk about glaucoma. Last month was National Glaucoma Month. We missed it by 12 days or so, but we'll talk to Linda Carimo. It's always appropriate to talk about glaucoma, which is one of the leading causes of blindness, and almost always when it occurs in the elderly, almost always it's related to diabetes and blood sugar issues. No surprise there. Lots of health challenges are related to blood sugar issues. Dysglycemia. Glaucoma, by the way, is 15 times more likely to cause blindness in African Americans than Caucasians, which is interesting. We'll talk to Linda Carimo at the bottom of the hour about glaucoma, and we'll get your calls in our next segment, 844-236-6010. If you want to purchase longevity products, you know where to go. BrightSideBen.com, PharmacistBen.com, or CriticalHealthNews.com. You can also sign up to join the Brightside Ben team off the website, BrightSideBen.com, PharmacistBen.com, or CriticalHealthNews.com. You can also call 866-735-2470, 866-735-2470 if you want to speak to a real person. All right, Linda Carimo will be with us at the bottom of the hour. We'll talk glaucoma. We'll get your calls next segment, 844-236-6010. Last program, we were talking about chitin, and we haven't talked about chitosan, which is a derivative of chitin. Chitosan is available in health food stores as a supplement. It's been used to help absorb fat after meals. If you take chitosan, supposedly you won't absorb the fat. Chitosan is a derivative of the fiber chitin. Chitin is actually considered to be the second most abundant natural polymer on the planet after cellulose. Polymers are long chains of repeating basic building block units. Starch is a classic example of a polymer. We talked about beta-glucan a few months ago, I guess, maybe a month ago. We talked about beta-glucan. That's another polymer. Beta-glucan is similar to cellulose, except for beta-glucan is soluble. Cellulose is insoluble. Chitin is a long chain made up of something called N-acetylglucosamine molecules, N-acetylglucosamine building blocks. N-acetylglucosamine, also known as NAG, similar to glucosamine, but a little bit different. That N-acetyl gives it a few different properties. NAG, N-acetylglucosamine, NAG, is, and by the way, N-acetyl, like N-acetylcysteine and N-acetylglucosamine, just refers to a little chunk of acetyl stuck to the molecule. I hope that's not too much information, but it's kind of interesting. Glucosamine has an N on it. N stands for nitrogen. And when you stick an acetyl onto that N, you get N-acetylglucosamine. N-acetylcysteine is the same thing. Cysteine has a little N, a little piece of nitrogen. You stick an acetyl on that nitrogen, you get N-acetyl. N-acetylcysteine. All these names of these chemicals, they sound kind of confusing, but to a chemist, or even a non-chemist who likes chemistry, it gives you a kind of picture of how the molecule looks like, and if you understand chemistry, you can understand what that's going to do for the molecule. That N-acetyl stuck to the glucosamine gives it really interesting properties that plain glucosamine doesn't have. N-acetylglucosamine, by virtue of this chemical tweak, this biochemical tweak to it, works as a lectin blocker. In fact, most lectin blocking supplements will have N-acetylglucosamine in them. If you're dealing with some kind of lectin health issue, you might want to consider taking N-acetylglucosamine supplements. You don't have to get a fancy schmancy lectin block, which tend to be a little bit pricey. You can just get straight N-acetylglucosamine supplements, which are much less pricey. N-acetylglucosamine is also found in aloe, and if you're dealing with a lectin problem, you may want to consider taking some NAG before you eat your lectin-containing food, and after you take your lectin-containing food, or just take it take it regularly. NAG is just a great supplement to take, especially effective, as we talked about yesterday, for the intestine, for intestinal health. If you're dealing with an H. pylori problem, H. pylori infection, NAG can help you there. It kind of has a sliming effect, has a mucus supporting effect that will help slime away H. pylori. If you're dealing with leaky gut syndrome or Crohn's disease or celiac issues, or even for that matter, if you're dealing with neurological and cognitive issues, Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, Huntington's disease. By the way, have you been reading about the relationship now they're finding between dementia and COVID infections and COVID mortality? It turns out that there's a really dramatic relationship and dramatic connection between symptoms of dementia or a diagnosis of dementia and COVID mortality, which is kind of interesting. Cancer, if you're dealing with skin diseases like psoriasis, eczema, acne even, and growths and rashes, cysts and such, and boils on the skin. All of these can be related to problems with the mucosal layer at the level of the gut. NAG can help you build that mucosal layer, prevent things from leaking into the bloodstream. If you're dealing with a neurological issue, a cognitive issue, a skin disease issue, autoimmune issue, it may be that the mucosal layer that lines the intestine is not strong and healthy, and stuff is leaking into the blood. In addition to eliminating problem foods, which you should always be doing, using nutritional supplements can help support the mucosal layer, and NAG is one of the best. Probiotics, of course, are important. Fiber is important. We're going to talk a little bit about fiber here because cellulose and and also something called resistant starch, which we'll talk about, are also very important for intestinal health. Probably the best source of NAG, if you don't want to get a straight NAG capsule, is good old Aloe Vera Gel. And many people know that they can relieve their digestive symptomology by using aloe vera gel, by drinking aloe vera gel. Aloe vera is the king of herbs. If you look at the aloe vera plant, it actually looks like a crown. And for good reason, because it is the king of herbs. It is a unbelievably fascinating, powerful, potent, important source of plant medicine, we'll say. It's got all kinds of good stuff in there. It's just crazy how powerful aloe vera is, and one of the major components of aloe vera that gives it its salubrious health effects, its beneficial health effects, is NAG, N-acetylglucosamine. Shrimp also contains some NAG. Mushrooms contain NAG, and as we talked about yesterday, insects, which are poised to become the next food fad, the next food fashion fad, crickets especially, are also good sources of NAG, N-acetylglucosamine. All right, I'm Pharmacist Ben. 844-236-6010 is our number. Lines open for you. We'll be back on the bright side right after this. All right, we are back on the bright side. I'm Pharmacist Ben. 844-236-6010 is our number. Lines open for you. We'll talk to Linda Carimo about glaucoma at the bottom of the hour. And we'll get your calls this segment if we have, 844-236-6010. So N-acetylglucosamine, NAG, is it's a bigger molecule. It's a bigger, has a larger chemical structure than plain old glucosamine. And it's got a lot of interesting benefits that glucosamine does not have, including for the intestinal lining. Actually, I shouldn't say it. Glucosamine's got benefits for the digestive tract too. N-acetylglucosamine seems to have more, and N-acetylglucosamine also, interestingly, has some mental health benefits. There's people who use NAG for anxiety issues, which is kind of interesting. It's a little bit more expensive than glucosamine. Glucosamine is a lot cheaper, but you may, if you're dealing with intestinal problems or even joint problems for that matter, you might want to experiment with N-acetylglucosamine, which is actually part of the hyaluronic acid molecule. It's a building block for hyaluronic acid. Hyaluronic acid, like chitin, is also a polymer. Polymers are long chains of repeating subunits. Glucans, in general, are long chains of repeating glucose molecules, and beta-glucan is one of those. The beta refers to how these glucose molecules are connected. A fructan is a long chain of fructose molecules. Beta-glucan and both beta-glucan and beta-fructan have immune-boosting properties and can be helpful for skin health. I use both in my skincare formulations. Hyaluronic acid is made up of NAG, NAG, and something called glucuronic acid. We talked about that in the past. Glucuronic acid is important for detoxification, especially for folks who are dealing with estrogen issues. Glucuronic acid is part of the liver's detoxification machinery. And both glucuronic acid and NAG, which make up hyaluronic acid, have interesting properties on their own. So if you take hyaluronic acid supplements, you'll get benefits from hyaluronic acid, and it's possible you'll get benefits from the building blocks too. The most plentiful natural polymer on Earth, chitin, is the second most plentiful natural polymer, but the most plentiful natural polymer is a very interesting fiber. Actually, it's a glucan called cellulose, like beta-glucan. Cellulose is made up of glucose molecules, but they're attached to each other differently. And because they're attached to each other differently, cellulose has a completely different quality than beta-glucan. Just by virtue, same stuff. It's all glucose molecules, but just by virtue of the fact that they're attached to each other differently, cellulose is a completely different molecule than beta-glucan. Cellulose does not dissolve in water. Cellulose is insoluble in water. It's made up of glucose like beta-glucan is, but because of the way the molecules are attached, and it's kind of interesting how they're attached to each other, all of a sudden you get something that's soluble turned into something that's insoluble. And beta-glucan is relatively soluble in water. And cellulose is completely insoluble in water. And the fact that cellulose does not dissolve in water gives it really interesting properties. It makes it important for creating structural hard material that you don't want to dissolve. For example, paper and textiles are made out of cellulose. And also the fact that it doesn't dissolve in water means that it's got some really interesting properties for the intestine. When something dissolves in water, it becomes chemically active. When something doesn't dissolve in water, it's not chemically active, but that doesn't mean it's not useful. The ability of something, molecule to dissolve in water plays an important role in how active that substance is going to be. The classic example of this phenomena of water interactions creating chemical activity is plant-derived minerals, which Dr. Wallach has been talking about for decades. And I've been using in my formulations now for decades as well. Plant-derived minerals, colloidal minerals, are also ionic minerals. They come from plants. And plants have this incredible ability, not just plants, but also microbes that live in the soil, have this incredible ability to turn insoluble, non-soluble minerals, i.e. rocks, into soluble minerals. And that makes all the difference in the world. Insoluble minerals are useless. In fact, insoluble minerals can actually have a certain amount of toxicity associated with them. I don't want to say they're useless, but they don't have chemical activity until they're somehow manipulated. So if you take a calcium carbonate, for example, the body has to work some magic in order to free that calcium from the calcium carbonate. Calcium carbonate is limestone. And that's one of the reasons why you got to be careful with the kind of supplements you take. If you take calcium carbonate versus colloidal calcium, you're not going to get anywhere near the same benefits because the body has to do some work to turn that calcium carbonate into something water soluble. Well, plants and microbes do that in the soil. They do that in the earth. And that's why plant-derived minerals are so functional and so useful. They're biologically active minerals. They've been made biologically active, which means they've been made water soluble by microbes and by plants. And this gives these plant-derived minerals biological properties that ordinary minerals do not have. In the same fashion, cellulose does not have a lot of biologic activity, but beta-glucan does. Cellulose is a glucan. Beta-glucan is a special kind of glucan. And beta-glucan, because it dissolves in water, has all kinds of wonderful biological properties, particularly for strengthening the immune system. Restart Your Life, for example, is a longevity product that's marketed or sold as a cancer preventative, not to cure cancer, but to prevent it or just to boost the immune system. Beta-glucan, you don't need to have a disease to benefit from Restart Your Life or beta-glucan supplements. Beta-glucan is just a good tonic. It's just good for building the immune system, and it's all because it dissolves in water. Cellulose, which is the same molecule, just with the pieces connected slightly differently, it doesn't have biological activity. Nonetheless, cellulose, insoluble as it may be, does have important health benefits, particularly for the intestine. Insoluble fiber, there's two kinds of fiber. You've got soluble fiber, which beta-glucan is one, and you got insoluble soluble fiber, fiber that does not dissolve in water. Cellulose is an insoluble fiber. If you ever take a look at a piece of celery, you'll see these little long threads running through that celery. That's insoluble fiber. That's cellulose. It's not digestible by humans, but it is digestible by microbes. It is digestible by bacteria that live in the intestine. And when these bacteria live in the intestine, or when these bacteria that live in the intestine chew on that cellulose, they release really interesting chemicals that are wonderfully important and as underappreciated as they are important. Cellulose also adds bulk to your foods, which stimulates the elimination of waste through the bowel, stimulates bowel movements. And that's in addition to the fact that the cellulose acts as a prebiotic. That means a prebiotic is a food source for bacteria in the intestine, and this prebiotic effect has health benefits. First of all, prebiotics create a healthy microbiome because now you've got a way of supporting the probiotics, the good bacteria. They eat the stuff. And then secondly, and this is really important, when bacteria digest the cellulose, you get one of the most underappreciated of all molecules, a special kind of fat, which we've talked about on the bright side in the past, but which does not get a lot of play, unfortunately, something called short-chain fatty acids. Short-chain fatty acids are the shortest of the three sizes of fatty acids. You have medium-chain fatty acids, which have their own health benefits, and long-chain fatty acids, which also have their own benefits. That's the long-chain ones are the ones we hear about the most. The short-chain ones you don't hear about at all, and they are derived from the action of bacteria on cellulose. Very important for appetite suppression, for brain health, and for intestinal health as well, these short-chain fatty acids. All right, I'm Pharmacist Ben. We're going to talk to Linda Karima right after this. Don't go away. All right, we're back on the bright side. I am Pharmacist Ben, and thanks for joining us. We're on the air Monday through Friday, 8 to 9 Pacific and 10 to 11 Central Time, and 24/7 on the archive page at benfuchsarchives.com. We also have a search engine at benfuchsarchives.com, as well as brightsideben.com. You can also go to you can also go to pharmacistben.com and criticalhealthnews.com, and we have longevity products up on all our websites, and you can click on the Join the Team link if you want to start a home-based business and sell nutritional supplements, longevity supplements, and make a little spare money in your spare time, and also help change the world at the most powerful and fundamental level there is, which is the level of good health and nutrition. Click on the Join the Team link at brightsideben.com, pharmacistben.com, or criticalhealthnews.com. And you can also call, if you'd like to speak to a real-life human being, 866-735-2470, 866-735-2470. All right, I am looking forward to speaking to our guest today. Linda Karima is the author of a book, I Know My Way memoir. She is a glaucoma expert. She's also a glaucoma sufferer. And last January was National Glaucoma Month. We did not get to talk about glaucoma last month, but we are going to do so today with Linda Karima. Please welcome Linda to the bright side. Hey, Linda.
Thank you so much for the invite, Ben. I'm very happy to be here. And it doesn't matter what month you're talking about, because every month of the year is one subject to the other, a topic in vision or eyesight.
Very, very good point. There's millions of Americans who have glaucoma. Most people are older, but I was interested in reading your information that it affects infants. And you were born with glaucoma, right?
No, I was born partially sighted. I developed glaucoma about 30 years later. But yes, 1 out of every 10,000 babies, unfortunately, is born with glaucoma. And I can't even imagine the pain that a baby would feel, because I know myself as an adult, it was just unbearable.
Oh, my goodness. I can't even imagine. It's a pressure issue, right? It's like fluid is pushing outward on the eye, causing pressure.
Well, the issue is, would you like me to explain in a better way? Okay, let's use a kitchen sink for an example. Okay, the kitchen sink is at the back of your eye. It's the retina, which does all the processing of light coming through the eye, gets it ready for the brain. So we're going to fill up the water and soap suds, and then we're going to wash the dishes. Now, the dishes represent the light coming into the eye. When it's all done, you have dirty water. So the dirty water is like the aqueous, which is the fluid in the back of the eye, has to be drained. It's like, and then we get new. So what happens is the water comes down the pipe, and it might encounter a little bit of a clog. That little clog could be known as glaucoma in its lesser state, open angle, which is usually treated with drops to unclog that area. Then the other case is, okay, let's get back up to the sink again. We're filling up the water in a soap suds, washed all the dishes. Now we're sending the water down the drain, down the pipes all the way towards the end, out of the house, or in our example, out of the eye, almost blockage. That is the more acute closed angle glaucoma, which is what I had.
Wow. How do you treat that?
Well, it's mainly initially through eye drops, but most times you need surgery. I've been through about 2 or 3 of the surgeries over the year, but now is the best time for anybody who has this kind of glaucoma because they have perfected a laser surgery that not only arrests it, because you can't cure it, you can only stop the problem of the drainage not happening. And it's interesting because there are many people out there, I wonder, who are suffering with migraines that might actually have glaucoma. Here's an example. We were on a cruise with my sister. Now, she certainly knows the family history of all different types of eye diseases. And she says, oh, my migraine is killing me, blah, blah, blah. And I said to her, when you go home, I said, humor me, go to the eye doctor and just make sure. Not only did she go to the eye doctor, they sent her to a specialist in New York City, and she underwent 2 laser surgeries on both eyes. And luckily, 2 years down the road now, she's clear of it and takes no drops. So that is a fantastic. I only wish I had that opportunity so many years ago.
What do you know about the relationship between diabetes and blood sugar issues and glaucoma?
Oh, definitely. There is not only diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity, and smoking.
Wow.
And unfortunately, similar to the COVID-19, unfortunately, our black people are more susceptible to this, especially at age 40 or higher, and Mexican Americans and other Hispanics 60 to 65. So I always advocate for yearly exams.
Any ideas why it would affect African Americans and Hispanics more?
Well, again, it's the socioeconomic issue of are they able to get the types of food that they need to eat? Are they eating junk? Are they eating properly? Are they smoking? Again, high blood pressure is the other thing. That's a sneaky disease because you don't know you have high blood pressure until, God forbid, you have a stroke or a heart attack. This is the same way with most glaucoma cases. There are people walking around with it now that they really don't know that they actually have it until they start to see change in their vision. And then, by that time, they're already losing sight because you can't get it back. Once you lose it, you cannot get it back.
What kind of changes would people notice?
Well, the first thing would be peripheral vision. And again, our eyes are very smart. If we have one eye that's got a problem, the other eye compensates. So I have a little drill that you can do. The best place to do it really is in your car, especially if you drive. You look straight ahead, you cover your left eye with your hand, and you look down to your right. Are you seeing clearly what you're seeing? Is everything looking clear? Okay. Then you do the opposite. You put your hand over your right eye, and then you look to your bottom left. Is everything clear? Now, if you see shadow on either side, you already know you have problem with peripheral vision, and you don't need to be behind the wheel.
Can you exercise that? Can you strengthen your eye muscles or peripheral vision, sense of peripheral vision? Vision? No?
Oh, not really, no. As I said to you, the very best thing that anybody can do these days is yearly eye exams, and now with all the various plans, it's there for getting eyes checked even for children, especially for children because their eyes are so porous.
It's a part. I think it's a part of ordinary eye exams, or do you have to have a special glaucoma exam?
Not initially. You go to your regular ophthalmologist, and they'll dilate your eye, and then they'll look through the ophthalmoscope. That's the machine where you put your chin on, and
is that the puff of air? Is that the puff of air one?
Oh no, that's the one where they actually put a little blue light. It's a blue light. Yes.
And you look out of the side. You're supposed to look out.
You look back and forth side. You look straight ahead, and they're able to check your pressure. Then
hang on. We got to take a commercial. Hang on, just for a moment. We'll be back. I want to talk about the book when we come back too. Linda Karima is with us. We'll be back right after this. Okay, we are back on the bright side. I'm pharmacist Ben. We're talking to Linda Karima about glaucoma. We'll talk about her book, I Know My Way Memoir, in just a moment. So just finish up here real quick with this test that you were describing before we went to break.
Okay, when they look through with this blue light or purple light, they'll be able to test the pressure in the eye. Normal people have pressure of 10 to 20. After that is cause to worry. And if they see something, what they'll do next is a field test, where you look into a screen and you're supposed to hit something when you see little things coming from the left and right, and they test your field. And if they see that your field has an issue, they will look at it in terms of do you have cataract? Because that's the other thing. Or might be the beginning of retinitis pigmentosa, which is RP. There are several diseases where the peripheral vision becomes a problem. And that in itself, that's how I found out. I went to put something down on my desk, and it fell on the floor. And I said, okay, I know I put it on the desk. How did it land on the floor?
And wow.
That's what started it for me.
Interesting.
And the crazy thing is, I went to go make a copy. I saw these little specks on the screen. I'm like, what's going on here? It looks like ants.
Oh, my gosh. And that was glaucoma? The little specks were a sign of glaucoma? Because people ask me, they talk about floaters. That's what they talk. Is that what you're referring to?
Well, floaters are something that you do see later in life because the eye becomes smaller. So the vitreous becomes smaller and it breaks off in little pieces, which upsets a lot of older people because you can blink them away most of the time, but sometimes they become very, very, very annoying. But that's just a general thing. But it also led me to think, okay, wait a minute, I'm 32 years old here. This shouldn't be happening.
Wow.
That's why.
So you actually got diagnosed with glaucoma at the age of 32?
Yep.
Wow. Correct. And how is it progressive? Is it getting worse?
Well, when I first was diagnosed, my father was dying of cancer to begin with. So I made a special trip up to Boston where all the, different studies were being made, and they diagnosed it, and I was in severe, severe pain. Nobody on earth wants to have glaucoma pain. When I tell you this, I'm not lying. It's like somebody digging a hole straight through your eye, back out.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my
God. Oh, my God.
This is why there are some people who are proponents of using
CBD and THC.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I've heard negative things about CBD and THC for glaucoma. It's like there's mixed evidence on it. Some people say it makes it worse. Have you heard that?
No, because I've never got involved with it. Luckily, they were able to do the first surgery up there in Boston, and they basically saved what sight I had. Of course, I lost some. As I said, you lose it, you lose it. But unfortunately, I said my father was dying, and I couldn't go up there any sooner. But I've been under control. I was under control for several years. Then I had another surgery in the 90s, and then I had it's just one thing after the other. So now my vision is not good, only because I have another disease that's totally non-related.
Oh, no. I'm sorry to hear that.
And the steroids are doing it.
It could be. Yeah, you're right. It could be. Do you know about any relationship between dementia and glaucoma?
Dementia and glaucoma? No, not.
No, I've heard about I've heard of that.
Well, it could be. I mean, I guess they're trying to do a lot of studies, and I do know one thing that they should be looking at with dementia is the amount of magnesium in their body.
Yeah,
because
of course.
I know myself. If my magnesium is low, I have trouble thinking.
Do you supplement do you take any supplement? I know you said that there's no supplements to heal glaucoma, but do you take any supplements to prevent further degeneration?
No,
I take supplements.
I take 2 eye drops, Tomoptic and Alpha. I've been on those for many, many years, and my doctors say what works. And luckily, for many years, my pressure's been low.
Okay, got it. We're going to run out of time here, but I want to get to the book. I Know My Way memoir. Always remember to color the sky blue. What does that mean? Always remember to color the sky blue.
At one time in the book, I describe when my mother was with her 2 nieces at the table, and it was gray sky outside, and one child said to the other, "Well, you just have to color the sky gray." My mother grabbed the crayon and said, "No, you always remember to color the sky blue, because when it's gray, you'll always remember the good times."
Oh, wow. That's cool. So is this your story? Is the book your story?
It's a book about our family, basically, my mother being the centerpiece. It's written in a heavy amount of dialogue because I'm a dialogue writer, and it's gotten very good reviews. I mean, you'll laugh, you'll cry, and do everything in between. And what I wanted to make available to your listeners is if they send me an email, Linda@LindaKarimo, KARIMO.com, and say I heard you on the radio or whatever, I will give them access to a 40% discount on all the formats available. And there's a new newsletter I'm putting together, Eye on Your Health, which will start in March, and they'll be welcome to subscribe to that as well.
I'm going to definitely subscribe to that. Eye on Your Health, and it's a Linda Karimo. Give the email again, LindaKarimo.com.
It's Linda@Karimo. Yeah, it's an email, Linda@LindaKarimo, KARIMO.com. And I'll be very happy to hear from you. It's been a very success up till now from the other radio shows that I have been working with, and I'm very proud of it, honestly.
So you're dedicated to spreading the word about glaucoma, or making people aware of this disease. That's awesome.
Absolutely. Other eye diseases as well.
It's kind of glaucoma is kind of a mysterious disease because it only affects 3 million people or so, but it's a serious thing.
Yeah.
And it's only 1% of the population. It's less than 1% of the population, but it's pretty darn serious. Who's Teresa Marafito?
That was my mother.
I see. So did she help you write the book?
Well, she had done some writing that we found after her tragic death. And she was hit by a train,
an
Amtrak train here in our local town. By that time, she was blind, and she lost her way. And
oh my goodness!
So after that, we found a bunch of notes in the closet, and that's what I took several years later. I couldn't write it until 7 years later. I was just too devastated, and
I bet.
that's when I put it together, because she obviously wanted to help people learn, and I just filled in all of the rest. And as I said, it helps people understand what partial vision means.
What does it mean? What does it mean?
Here's an example. You're outside in the sun. You're going to meet somebody in a dark bar. You walk in the door. Now, most people need a few minutes or seconds to correct their vision. A partially sighted person takes a lot more time, or it may take so much as that they have to be, helped to their table. There's an example.
Wow. Now, your mom had eye problems, too, in addition to you? And you were born into a family with a history of eye problems?
Yes, different ones, yes. My father had RP. My mother was born with it, and she went through several operations, and it's just it was tough, but at the same time, I was able to convey through their mind and their thinking what they were seeing, what they were thinking at the time. And I think this is what made the book a success, because they could feel literally what they were saying, and through the words and through what they were thinking in each area. I mean, really.
So you were born to help people understand eye diseases and to help people appreciate their eyes.
I want to think that I love medicine. I love biology, and since this was a family situation, I thought that there's a lot of other people. And if you look on Google, there are tons of questions. I get field questions all day long, and I can tell that there's confusion. That's why I'm coming up with this new newsletter.
Well, you know what? You're doing beautiful work. You're turning lemons into lemonade, and I always thought that's what we should all be doing. If we, God forbid, if we should suffer from some health challenge or disease or some crisis, we can use it to help other people, and you're doing just that. Thank you so much, Linda, for being on the bright side and for your work. What's your website?
Okay, it's lindacarimo.com.
Well, that's easy. LindaCarimo, Karimo.com, and your email, linda@lindacarimo.com for 40% off the book, and also the newsletter, which I'm going to sign up for myself. Thank you so much for being on the bright side, Linda. Have a beautiful day. Thanks for everything you're doing.
Thank you so much as well.
Take care, Linda. All right, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for listening to The Bright Side. I am Pharmacist Ben. Have a wonderful, beautiful, awesome, spectacular day. We'll talk to you later, folks. Bye for now.